Hey, Tommy, we have an action-filled podcast for you this week because we did a lot of stupid stuff, including buying the cheapest car in America.
That's right. Yeah, we went out and bought a little tiny electric car, which is the biggest pile of junk I have seen in my entire life. So in this video, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about some cool stuff going on in the news and a bunch of other things related to the car world.
But first, if you're interested in what's going on at TFL, I recommend you check out my t-shirt, alltfl.com, where we have all of our videos, including the one where we bought this this wonderful new, inexpensive vehicle that meets no one's needs. But before we get to that, Tommy, let me read you an email that I just got, okay?
Okay.
This is from TikTok.
Oh, yes, the famed short-form video platform.
You know, where we have 1.2 million followers.
Yep.
And do videos that regularly get in the millions of views, right? So let me give you the background of this email first, okay? I got an email from Gino. Hi, Gino, at TikTok. And he said, kind of interestingly, that they want us on TikTok.
Okay, so they wanted us to start a TikTok channel.
Yeah.
And he also said, if I remember right, he'd get us verification, which is a big deal on TikTok. Yeah. He'd get us onto the kind of revenue stream quickly, and he'd kind of fast track our progress on TikTok.
Yeah, so he you know, as you know, we publish, 8 YouTube channels, 2 podcasts, 2 websites, and of course a TikTok channel. So, you know, we've got a busy team of car people here doing, car stuff, at least from the news perspective and from the testing perspective constantly. So he wrote TFL Now, and he said, hey, TFL Now, if you're interested, we'd love to have you on TikTok. And to make that process sweeter, we will fast track you in 3 different ways. First, we'll fast track you in getting monetized. Mm-hmm. Secondly, we'll fast track you in getting your videos promoted. So they were going to push our videos.
Nice.
Yeah. And thirdly, we're going to fast track you in getting verified.
That's great.
And I was like, okay, that's great, but probably these guys don't know that we're already on TikTok, right? That we've been on for 2 years now. We got a huge following on TikTok. So I thought to myself, well, we could take advantage of that offer and, just start putting up TFL Now videos, right?
Yep.
But instead, I decided that we're going to do the right thing and say, hey, we already got a YouTube channel, but we need your help in just getting verified.
Okay.
And he said, okay, here's the form you have to fill out, send it in, you're all set. And I just got an email back from TikTok saying, hi there. Thanks for reaching out. Our team has reviewed your account, but it does not meet our verification requirements at this time. Please note that our exact verification requirements are confidential, so we cannot share those details. We urge you to continue creating great videos. So we've been in business longer than TikTok, Tommy.
Okay.
I think TFL Car is now up to about, just one of our channels, up to about 17 million views a month. 17 million.
Dad, we got to get to the point. I'm falling asleep over here. It sounds like you're upset at TikTok and you're just putting it in a podcast.
No, the point is that it's so frustrating with these tech companies, I mean, a simple Google search is all you need to do to figure out that, about 30 to 50 million people a month watch one of our YouTube videos, and yet we cannot get verified because of some secret algorithm, basically, that they can't tell who we are. I mean, it's really frustrating, and it's really silly. And maybe what TikTok should do is just, take the Mr. Musk approach and just have people pay for verification, because at this point it's just silly.
Dad, I love you.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't think that the listeners out there care very much.
But it's frustrating from the whole team. We work so hard to create all this content, to have this massive following of people, and yet somebody at TikTok, because of the algorithm, can't figure out just to do a simple Google search and see just exactly who we are.
It's a Chinese-run company.
It's an American-run company that's Chinese.
Yes, which I would argue is the same as a Chinese-run company. And it's clearly not a good company. They don't pay their creators much. They don't care about creators. So I'm not surprised at this at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's just true. Any of the tech companies whose livelihood is based on people like us, they can't even be bothered to give us a contact person or a telephone number to call when we have issues. And if they do bother to give us a contact person, that person usually has no ability to do anything that we need done whatsoever without sending us to like a help page on a website. It's just incredibly frustrating. It's beyond me how all these companies survive. Maybe we're just so trained with dopamine in our brains to like swipe up, that the rest of the business plan doesn't matter.
Well, I didn't mean to offend you there with putting your feelings to the side, Dad, but I think we should talk about cars, not about TikTok verification.
Okay, before we talk about cars.
Oh, no.
A lot of
we
people
were just about to start talking about cars.
Well, this is car-ish. A lot of people have emailed us, and I just said that we started in 2009, right?
Uh-huh.
And so a lot of people have emailed us, and they want to know how we got started. So I thought we should actually kind of just spend a few minutes talking about where TFL came from.
Okay.
Does that sound something that you're happy about?
I think we should do that later in the podcast.
All right, well, okay, fine. Do
I
it later.
can hear people tuning out as we speak.
You know, I have a thought about that too.
Well, here's the thing.
A lot of great podcasts out there. If you guys don't like my rants or my opinions, I say check out our friends over at Wheel Bearings, Nicole, Sam, and Robbie. They do a great podcast. Feel free to go over to Sam at Seen Through Glass. Maybe that's maybe Spike's Car Radio. That's another one I listen to. So if you don't like what I'm saying, a lot of other great choices out there.
You just told our fine listeners to go elsewhere.
I did. If they don't like it, look.
This podcast has gone off the rails.
No, it hasn't. We spend all this time and energy making videos, and this is our one chance to actually kind of give you a behind the scenes, be honest about things, and I'm honest about that. There's just a lot of great podcasts out there that I love listening to, and I get kind of bummed out. People, reading the comments saying, everybody's great on the podcast team except for Roman. So if you don't like me, don't listen. It's pretty straightforward.
Maybe we cut out the Roman rants.
No.
Why not?
No, because this is the only chance where I actually have a moment to vent, right? I can't do that when I'm reviewing the car, right? This is the unadulterated, this is the uncut, this is you're getting the straight stuff here, and hopefully you find it fun and entertaining and certainly insightful. And I'm not going to whitewash, I'm not going to sugarcoat things, I'm just going to be who I am.
I think we should maybe tone down the Roman rants.
Okay, all right.
If I were to think about it. But
so you're saying that these are not funny, not entertaining, not interesting, but just kind of a venting moment for me that doesn't click with our viewers.
Sometimes I do think that,
Okay,
Dad.
right,
I do have
get
to
that.
say.
That's a fair criticism. Sure. All right, let's go ahead.
Here's the reason. So I don't particularly think I'm good at podcasts.
Right.
And I come across as kind of snarky, and I don't mean to, and I apologize. I'm working on it. Podcasts are one of those things where I really struggle with them. I know you like podcasts, but I really prefer kind of the edited, shorter form videos. So myself, I don't really listen to a ton of podcasts.
Yeah, you do. You listen to podcasts where like they do history, right?
I do.
Or where they delve into like things like the JFK murder, right?
And I love those kind of podcasts.
Right, yeah.
Because there's a lot of research that goes into them, and they have guests and interviews. And I'd like to do one of those one day with this, but that's a ton of work, and with 8 YouTube channels to feed, I just don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah. So before we get into cars, and this is, I promise you guys, we'll be into cars in a second. This is the last bit. So for me, right, like the JFK thing, right? I grew up with so much noise around the murder of JFK, right? I heard so many conspiracies, and so at this point, I don't find it interesting because over the last 40 years of my life, right, I have watched shows, I have listened to talk radio, I have seen news programs delving in and uncovering and blah, blah, blah. And at this point, I mean, everything that's been said about that can be said. But for you, it's new, right? Because you're much younger. So it's a generational thing.
But what about this? Like I was listening to a podcast about the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
You
I wasn't around for that.
Well, you may have been.
Nathan would say I was, yeah.
But I thought it was really interesting. And so, I mean, like the JFK assassination, obviously, you're right, has been overplayed. But there's a lot of interesting podcasts out there where I learn things. These podcasts where we just kind of chat and spit into the wind, I think we can improve this. We got to have a plan, no more Roman rants. We want sophistication here, Dad.
So you want to do like a highly produced, not kind of off the cuff, something where maybe even do put some production into it, where there's
sound effects.
That's
right.
Some sound bites. And that's what I love about this, because all the stuff we do has all that in it, right? And
yes.
We produce 15 to 20 videos a week, and some are easy, but like the series that we're in production on right now, where we take three 200,000-mile Toyotas that we bought for under $10,000 and see if Toyota is indeed the most reliable vehicle out there. Those take a lot of work and time and logistics behind it. And as you know, I've been doing this long enough now. The more I do this, the less I actually get to do the fun part. I leave that to you, right? So you get to do the fun TikToks, you get to do the fun videos, and I'm kind of in the background figuring out how we pay for this stuff,
how to get verified on TikTok,
and how we get insurance for all this, all this stuff that isn't very exciting,
That's true, yeah.
but allows all the other stuff to happen. And so for me to be able to actually come out here and actually express my opinion and have a bit of a rant after a long week or after a rough day is fun, and I think what people want is fun.
If you think these Roman rants are bad, you should hear the ones driving home from work. Those ones are something else.
All right, so how do we get started, Tommy?
So we started in 2009. Basically, in the world of car YouTubers, that was pretty new. So it was like Saab Kyle 04 was the big one, Motor Trend, right? Those were big ones.
The Drive.
Yep, you've got a background in broadcast journalism.
I was a TV reporter.
I was 12.
I was a TV reporter at WFR TV in Rockford, Illinois.
Yeah. So you had the idea, well, let's start a little YouTube channel. And first you got into this world through one of our marketing guys now, actually. There was this blog that you started, just a little car blog.
Yeah, so let me take another step back. So what had happened was I had actually started a triathlon blog, Everyman Try, which is still out there because I got into triathlon. And I had built that up into a pretty sizable blog. But the problem with the triathlon blog was that I could get all the gear for free, but I couldn't get anybody to pay me. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't get anybody to actually cut a check. I could get like BMC to give me a carbon fiber bicycle. And then one day, when the mortgage was due, your mom, my wife, said, hey, why don't you go pay the mortgage with that bike? And she had a point. She was bringing in all the money, and I was kind of getting a lot of cool gear, but not a lot of real money for it. So I thought to myself, I could do this in the car world. I always love cars, so I'd rather be kind of a tiny fish in a big pond as opposed to like a medium-sized fish in a small pond. So I started a car blog, and the way that works is if you can get enough viewership or readership, every city in America that's significant, not like Peoria, Illinois, has a press fleet where the manufacturers keep a lot of their new cars, and then they lend those vehicles to automotive journalists to review for a week. So what they would do is, what was their first press car?
It was a Chrysler Sebring.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, 2009.
Yeah, they won't give you the good stuff right away. They want to make sure that you're not going to wrap it around a tree before they give you something nice. But not that the Sebring wasn't nice. I was super excited. Remember I picked you up when you went, and you were like 14 at the time. You were going
12.
to the dentist, and at 12 I took you to the dentist. So I got press cars, and they bring it to you clean and full of gas, and you review it, and then they give you another one after the week that's also clean and full of gas, and they take the dirty one, empty one away. It's a really great way to get into a lot of cars if cars are your thing, which are my thing. So we started reviewing cars on this car blog, TFL Car, mm-hmm. right? And then one day we were driving in a Lexus, remember, right?
Yep.
It was the...
it was an LS 460.
And it had one of the first adaptive cruise controls. And we're going kind of down the diagonal from Boulder to Longmont. You were next to me, and adaptive cruise control was on. And I was wondering to myself, will the car come to a complete stop when we reach the end of the road where there's a stoplight? And so what did you do?
Yep, so I had this little flip camera.
Mm-hmm. Those little crappy flip cameras.
Recorded it. It was like a 38-second video. And then we put it on the internet, and it got like 10 views. And we thought that was pretty good. So then we started doing little daily vlog-style reviews on cars and kind of covering the car industry. And keep in mind, this was 2009, and then 2010 was when we really got going. It was just a really small little operation. Now, it was a different landscape in YouTube back in the day. Right now, especially in the automotive space, it's just incredibly busy and flooded and crowded. Back then, it was still fairly doable in terms of getting traction.
Yeah, it wasn't quite the beginning of YouTube, but it was a few years into it, so there was still not a lot of automotive content. It was kind of fresh fields, and I was lucky because I had been a TV reporter, right, and I'd been what's called a one-man band. So when you start out in TV news, you start in small markets like Rockford, Illinois, where I was, and you usually have to one-man band things, which means that you have to be able to, you don't have a videographer, and so you would take the camera, set it up, shoot the video yourself or the news story yourself, and then go to the newsroom, edit it yourself, and then maybe even present it in the news as well yourself, and then roll the package. That's how it worked. I had videographers during the week, but I also worked on the weekends, so I didn't. So anyway, I knew how to shoot, edit, and compose a story. And I thought I can do this. And me and you started, but you were still a little guy.
Yeah, I was in middle school, and then I would edit the videos after school, and then eventually you met up with Nathan, and we started videos with Nathan.
And I decided that consistency was the king to building an audience, and so I think there was a period of 2 years where we put up a review every day.
Yeah,
every day, including holidays, weekends, every day.
Here's the key that nobody understands: is that for the first 4 years, none of the videos were really making money. So it was impossible to make a living off this. I remember we were making like $11 a day for a couple of years. So the only reason we were able to do this is because my mom had a good paying job. And it took a solid 4 years, I would say, of videos every day before things actually started to make a little bit of revenue that you could live off of. And then rather than just keep that revenue, you made the call to bring in new people. So we hired a videographer, and then Andre came on part-time as a Russian mechanic.
Yes, and then we hired Ian.
Yep, Ian's been with us. He's our videographer. We got a little teeny tiny office in Boulder. It was a little square room, just a perfect square.
It was a shared office space, and we had
with 4 desks in this little tiny office. Yep, and then from there we just kind of hired more videographers, and then more presenters, and then they've kind of come and gone like along the way. Like Emmy Hall used to work with us.
Yep.
She's great. A couple other people. Steven, a truck king.
Emmy.
Yeah, Steven used to work with us, right? And then they moved on to greater pastures eventually.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's been a really good adventure, and I'm very fortunate, even though we bicker a lot and people think we don't get along. My dad and I do get along very well, and we're really proud of the team and all they've accomplished. So I am critical of our podcast just because I think it could be better. But I'm very grateful for this opportunity.
Well, yeah, and like I said, I can't express to you how stressful it was to be able to. And back then, we weren't doing one-take videos. We were doing fully edited videos, produced videos, because YouTube is this furball of creativity, and it's constantly changing. And so what you guys are looking for is constantly changing. And back then, you had to do a produced video, and so to be able to shoot, edit, and upload a video every day and have it fresh and interesting. I mean, we tried to have a different car to review every day of the week, including holidays. That was a very stressful time. And like you said, instead of taking the money out of the company, we plowed it back into the company and helped build up TFL as a brand, as opposed to. And that's also hard, right? If you think about the biggest YouTube channels, many of them, if not most of them, are based around individuals. Mr. Beast, right? He's got a bunch of guys and sometimes gals with him, but it's all about him.
More or less.
More or less. And we took an approach that we're going to build a brand as opposed to kind of a personality-centric. And that's hard because one of the things that YouTube gives you or wants you to do is consistent videos that are the same every single time. And what I mean by the same, I don't mean they're the same video, but the format doesn't change. Imagine like you're watching, I don't know, pick your favorite show, The Bachelor, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, you tune in and it's not about The Bachelor, but it's about, a dog. You'd be like, how did my Bachelor show turn into? And that's kind of what we did because I got really bored of doing the same video.
Yeah, and I think honestly that probably has been one of the big mistakes that we've made.
Could be, yeah.
Is we didn't have the same format every time, and sometimes we cover the news and then this. So our solution, rather than just kind of put all this different stuff on one channel, was eventually to start other channels. And what we found is like the truck audience is completely different than the car audience, which is completely different than the EV audience. So like a lot of our longtime viewers, which we really appreciate, you guys and gals out there, right, get frustrated with the number of channels. But it's been a big thing to help us stay afloat is having other channels with different revenue sources and different communities. So sometimes the EV channel is doing really well because it's a new hot EV, but then the truck channel's not doing well, and then there's a new Tacoma, and then the EV channel might struggle a little bit. But having those different revenue sources has been crucial.
Yeah, and I think people like being being talked to or having a conversation with people who speak their language. So I'll give you an example, an easy one, right? I don't think there's anybody in the history of being a truck guy or gal has ever asked the question, how does a truck drive? Right? Whereas that is crucial to cars, but it's not about how a truck drives. It drives like a truck, right? Steering's not important. It's about how much it tows. It's about the payload, right? And so I think oftentimes automotive journalists try to cross over into the truck world, and they don't understand that like guys and gals in the truck world have a much different criteria for buying and reviewing and using their vehicles than they do in the car world. And that's why we have these different channels, because I think it allows us to have a much different focus when we talk about trucks versus when we talk about off-roading versus when we talk about cars versus when we talk about EVs.
And well, the other thing too is now that we're in 2023, I mean, the YouTube landscape has changed so much. And, you know, we do get criticism for headlines, and I understand that. But you have to now, I mean, the algorithm and YouTube has made it such that creators have to do these goofy thumbnails and headlines. And that's what the algorithm's favoring. And if you want to stay competitive, you have to do this. And then, you know, we used to review just new cars, but a lot of creators came along that in a lot of cases were much better at reviewing new cars than we were. So we had to come up with new competitive advantages, like buying classic cars and these funny little project cars, right? And what's interesting is, like, in the YouTube car space, you've got the folks that focus on old cars and projects, and you got folks that exclusively do new car reviews. And we're kind of in this middle ground where we try to do a little bit of both. And once again, maybe that hurts us. Maybe you like it, maybe you hate it, but there's plenty of folks out there. If you don't like it, we're always trying to improve. So it's tough. And it used to be too, like in 2012, you would put out a video, YouTube would notify your 100,000 subscribers, and you could get very consistent views. But now, I mean, you have to go more and more crazy with headlines and topics. And we're competing with people blowing up new cars with tanks. And how do you get an Ultima review to compete with that? And it's really a tough place if you're independently funded like us. You know, there's Edmunds and the KBBs of the world that have these huge parent companies behind them.
Yeah, or Motor Trend, Car and Driver, right?
Yeah,
Motor Trend is part of Discovery Channel. Car and Driver is part of, God, who are they owned by? They're owned by that big magazine chain that the billionaire started in California. I can't think of.
Yeah, Peterson.
Hearst. They're owned by Hearst.
But yeah, I mean, they've got the luxury where, like, if their YouTube channel's not performing well, they still have this huge mega corporation behind them to keep the payroll coming. Where that's a little trickier for us because it's just us.
I like to say we eat what we shoot.
Yes, that's
literally
true. But it's been a great ride, and we're still hanging in there, and we're still enjoying it, and we're still kind of trying to come up with.
I think we're doing more than hanging in there. I think we're thriving, dude.
Well, yeah. I think it's going pretty well, but it's tough.
Keep growing.
I mean, to your point, your TikTok rant. It's tough because the short form content is the new thing now. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. That's what the channels are pushing, and you know they're fun to make. I like doing them, but they just don't pay any bills.
So you see my frustration, right? 14 years of blood, sweat, and toil to build
I
this
understand.
audience, and then you get this
I
email from
Yep.
TikTok. Hi there. We can't even be bothered to Google you to find out who you are.
Right.
Our mysterious algorithm, you know, has not deemed you not qualified, even though you know we have millions of people who watch our stuff. You know, when you look at the website traffic, the podcast traffic, the YouTube, it's actually quite terrifying when I think about the audience, and I'm so like thankful to you guys for you know sticking with us through all these different kind of channels that we've built, through all the you know the different presenters that we brought on board. I'm so grateful that we're still here doing this. You know, a lot of YouTube creators, because of the constant kind of got to feed the beast, get burned out.
Sure. Well, I mean, and the other thing too, and this is
the audiences get burned out too.
Frustrating for me, but you know, it allows us to do this. Is like it used to be, we relied entirely on YouTube revenue. But to your point earlier, like it's like having a boss that you can never talk to. There's no way to get a hold of anybody at YouTube. We've had YouTube reps. They've been absolutely useless in the past. So if you have an issue with your revenue source, or you're wondering, well, hey, why is this month doing much worse than previous month? There's no one you can talk to. And the revenue is always up and down and up and down. So that's why we have to bring in outside advertisers to help bolster. I'm not complaining. You know, we're doing okay. We're doing very good.
It's worse than that. Remember, we were for a while there with Defy, which was a multi-channel
network. Yeah, they stole a lot of money.
And they stole a lot of money. We signed an agreement with them. Basically, the way it worked is they said they would promote our channel.
Yep.
And then YouTube paid them, and there was an agreement that our money would go into a separate bank account from Defy money. And then as Defy was going out of business, somehow the executives decided that agreement didn't mean anything, and they took their money out of our money and stole and that almost put us out of business because we couldn't make payroll. I mean, it's kind of like the Wild West out there.
I just got a jalapeno in my eye.
I know. Sorry about that. You had that.
Oh, it really hurts.
Yeah. I'll keep ranting, and you want to get some water? I can keep talking. I'm serious. Here, you go take care of it.
It hurts so bad. Sorry.
Yeah. We had, what's that called for lunch?
Banh mi.
We had banh mi for lunch, and I told them to leave the jalapenos out of it. So anyway, that's why I'm so grateful that I'm here and I can have this like frank conversation with you guys. And hopefully you guys enjoy the fact that there's two things that are kind of key to TFL. If you ever watch our videos or if you ever wonder about kind of what we're based on, one is being authentic and the other one is being transparent. So authentic and transparent. So whatever we do, we believe that you guys should kind of be aware of what's happening here. That's why we do kind of these behind the scenes video, fleet updates. And then we're always open about kind of, what's going on, where we make our money, how we make our money, and more importantly, how we're doing. And like I say, I'm just grateful that we're thriving so that we could do things like buy the cheapest new car in America, which, turned out to be a huge mistake. When Tommy goes back, we'll tell you the story, but I'll kind of start it because it was my doing. So as you know, over at TFL Classics, that's the other thing, by the way, that's the third thing. So there's three things that make us unique, and that is we love cars, and all cars, not just like, some media organizations, like GM Authority, specialize in doing news about GM, and that's great. It's a really great way to get in depth with the brand or in depth on a topic. We love all cars, be they Fords, General Motors, Mercedes, name it. Be they old, be they new, be they trucks, be they motorcycles. Anything that is mechanical that can take you from place A to B, we love, and I hope that shows through in the videos. But anyway, so we've been doing a bunch of videos from the Rocky Mountain auction. Thank you guys. It's basically a dealer auction where dealers sell cars. So for instance, if you're trading your car in at the local Toyota dealership, you can obviously then get money for that car, and if that car is good, the dealer will sell it, or if not, they'll take it to the Rocky Mountain dealer auction. Are you okay?
Yeah, it's just incredibly painful.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
I don't know how I managed that.
And they'll sell the car there, and usually other smaller dealers will buy them, like the local lots that you see on any corner of any street in America, and they'll sell them there. So I decided to go with Tommy and Brendan and our videographer Cole to the auction because they were shooting. What were the video you were shooting, which we're going to be publishing?
Yeah, it's called Budget Ballers. So we bought, we didn't buy, but we were checking out 3 heavily depreciated luxury cars that you can get for a tiny amount of money, and we were showcasing how much luxury you can get for.
If we need to stop this, let me know. Okay?
Just a few $1,000s.
If it's too painful, then we can take a break.
Why has this happened?
And we can edit this out, and we can fix this.
Okay, let's take a little break here.
I figure you look like you're in a lot of pain. We'll be right back. All right, like I was saying, Tommy, transparency is one of our core values. So you guys got to see Tommy with jalapeno, in his eye.
That was definitely an interesting experience, Dad. I've never done that before. I don't eat a lot of peppers, and I was picking them out of a sandwich, and then I just rubbed my eye, and it just exploded it. So I do apologize sincerely there.
No worries. I appreciate that you're still, sticking to this. So when I left the story off, I was talking about the auction and how it works. And I showed up at this auction, and there was this interesting car there. You want to tell them what it was?
Yes, it's a little Chinese car called the Candy K27. And 3 years ago, end of 2020, there was a lot of reports about this new brand coming to the U.S. with the most affordable new car on the market. And they claimed it was a real car. So we've seen neighborhood electric vehicles in the past, right? Like those little gem kind of golf cart things that go 20 miles and go 25 miles an hour. But no, Candy said this was going to be a real car for $12,000 before the $7,500 tax credit, with real car things: power windows, air conditioning, a heater, 4 seats, airbags. Great point. Lots of news.
Reverse camera with sensors.
Yeah, lots of news. And people were doubtful. They said, you're not going to get this thing to the EPA certification. You're not going to crash test it. It's just a pipe dream. Well, then in 2020, some people started driving it. Top speed 60 miles an hour. They had all these specs, claim specs. They had a bunch of them in Dallas, all lined up, ready to be delivered.
100 miles of range.
And then poof. You didn't hear anything of Candy. Nothing actually ended up happening.
They actually got a CARB certified, which is the California Air Research Board.
Yeah, and what's interesting is like EPA certified
59
range numbers.
59 miles of range.
Yeah, right. So this was pretty close to happening, and then it just never ended up happening. But apparently, that lot of cars ended up getting sold, and they did become neighborhood electric vehicles, which is a shame because it means they're limited to 35 miles an hour. But that's weird too, because technically neighborhood electric vehicles are supposed to go 25. And then, I was reading a report that maybe there was some kind of bad stuff going on within Candy, relative to how they reported their sales numbers. It was a little fishy.
Yeah, there's some allegations of fraud because I think it is a New York Stock Exchange listed company, and I think they took, if I remember the number right, 160 million, and they may have overestimated how many cars they actually sold. Anyway, this is all part of the story that we're going to be telling on the video. But here at the podcast, the important thing is there was one for sale at the auction for, well, $5,000.
Yeah, so we ended up buying it. Now, important thing about this auction, right?
27 miles
We have
on the odometer.
We have a dealer partner we use, right?
Yep.
And we never sell these cars for profit, right? So the whole point of a dealer auction is that dealers can kind of trade within themselves before they sell to the public.
Yeah, we don't flip cars. We're not a dealer.
We've never made money on a car we bought at a dealer auction. I'll tell you that
we
much.
tend to lose money.
We're really good at buying high and selling low.
Yeah, it's a video
And
production company.
The other thing I want to talk about, Dealers Auto Auction of the Rockies, really great organization.
They
right?
are great, yeah.
But the prices are not exactly what you would consider bargain basement. Like, especially a lot of the Toyota products, you see a lot of FJ Cruisers go for what I would consider retail prices, even from a secondary market standpoint. So there's not a lot of deals to be had. But not a lot of dealers wanted this Candy. So
it didn't sell.
It didn't sell, right? So we ended up picking it up for $5,000.
How much was it originally supposed to sell for?
$12,000.
New, yeah.
And it had 27 miles on it. I think we're the first owners. I did find another one with also low miles that sold for $3,000. So I think we may have overpaid for this Candy.
Where did this one sell for $3,000?
It was at a Hyundai dealer somewhere.
Wow. Was it also new?
It was slightly used. It had like 800 miles on it.
Oh, okay. Well, ours was also magnificent refrigerator white.
Yeah, right. So it's a new car, and what's interesting about this is like, it's not a golf cart because it has airbags, right? No golf cart has airbags or air conditioning or a heater or a backup camera or Bluetooth audio, right? Like all of these things. So Candy really was trying to sell these in the U.S. mass market. I suspect they got stuck at safety regulations.
Yeah, I feel like my feet are the crumple zone in this vehicle. And by the way, that's Candy with a K.
Yeah.
K-N-D-I.
Because the doors are about 2.5 millimeters thick. So even though it does have airbags, I really doubt that this thing would make it past traffic code.
It's rolling on 14-inch wheels, which is probably the size of a go-kart.
Yeah, right. And
Or a golf cart.
I know that these are capable of 60 miles an hour as advertised. I've seen videos of them doing 60. So ours is clearly speed limited to 35, but it'd be really cool if we could figure out a way to unlock some more speed.
Yeah. And the reason we're saying that is because, I wasn't sure if we bought the world's cheapest new car or the world's, another idiot new car, SH, starting with that Chase.
Right.
Not CH. And I'm kind of leaning toward the world's crappiest new car right now because when we drove it home, and keep in mind, I shouldn't say home, to the office. So the auction's about 30 miles from our house. We knew we couldn't drive on the highway, which would take us about 25 minutes because it'd only do 35 miles an hour. So we had to take back roads. But 35 miles an hour top speed is incredibly and painfully slow when you actually have to drive it. It, in fact, took us twice as long to get home. And that's not counting all the people that we backed up and obviously made late for whatever appointment because when we got on one-lane roads that were like 40 miles an hour, most people drive 45, and we couldn't go a hair over 35 unless we were going downhill.
Yeah, so felt bad about that, right? Now, technically, neighborhood electric vehicles in Colorado, you can drive on roads with speed limits up to 35.
Uh-huh.
And we stuck to primarily roads with those speed limits, but even still, people are going 50 and you're going 35. So you're really making people a little grumpy. But, this Candy, what amazes me is, A, the number of features it has for such a small amount of money. So figure if they had brought it to production for $12,000 and it did qualify for the $7,500.
It does have a steering wheel.
Well, it's got steering wheel audio controls even. But it's not a number of features that's astonishing. It's the sheer lack of build quality that's amazing. I mean, everything doesn't fit right. The panel gaps are terrible. It's broken down twice on the way home from the auction. It said 58% charge, and then it just stopped working.
So when we picked it up, the car said basically it had 90% of the battery. So we figured if it's got 59 miles of range, 90% should get us home with, electricity to spare. So we're trucking down the road. We get about 2 miles from our office, and all of a sudden little lights start coming up. And since there is no owner's manual, we're like, I wonder what that means, because the battery still read 50%. So we were like, battery's probably fine.
Right.
And then little dong started going off, ding, 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 and then the car died.
Yeah, just shut off. And we thought like maybe something had gone wrong internally because it still is reading plenty of charge. towed it back to the office, stuck it on a charger, and this car is supposed to have a 17 kilowatt hour battery.
Yep.
And sure enough, it sucked up like 16 and a half. So the battery was depleted. It was dead.
So the what's called the battery management system, or BMS, apparently is mistaken in the car. And what the battery management system is supposed to do is tell you how much battery power there is, and sometimes it can become uncalibrated. In other words, it doesn't know when the battery is full and it doesn't know when the battery is empty. And I suspect that that's what happened, because like I say, when we plugged it back in, it sprang to life and it was fine. So I decided to take it and get it washed, because this thing hadn't been washed for like 2 years. It had been sitting on some lot somewhere. And as I was washing it, I went to a self-wash because that's what we do. I was using the high pressure washer, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if I'm getting like important parts wet. Now, normally you wouldn't worry about that in most cars, but like Tommy said, the build quality in this thing is that of paper mache combined with paper tissues, and I was like, maybe I'm getting important stuff wet. So I bring it back to the office, and I did an important experiment, Tommy.
Yeah, what did you do?
So it was 10 miles to and from the car wash, and I was curious to see how much energy that took. So I put it back on the charger and charged it up to full, and it took 2.38 kilowatt hours of energy. Mm-hmm. And if we know the battery is 17 kilowatt hours, we can do the math and we can figure out exactly how much range it has. And if you do the math, it comes out to about 71 miles of range.
Okay, so pretty good. So
Yeah.
EPA said 59, Candy said 100.
Yeah,
but
in the summer when the weather's warm.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good amount of range, especially considering this after tax credit would have been a $5,000 vehicle. Look, I understand why this company never made it. Because
they build crappy cars.
Well, hold on. No, it's because we have really strict laws in the U.S. about crash safety. I suspect that this very car in China probably does go 60 miles an hour, right? They just have much more lax road safety rules. However, I do wish that there was a little form you could sign here in the U.S. saying, I understand this car is not going to keep me alive in an accident, but this would have been a really cool runabout for a lot of people that just wanted to zoom around cities.
So what happened? Let me continue the story. So we get into the office this morning, and what happened?
Well, it wouldn't drive. It wouldn't go in its drive mode. So the power electricity module would start up, but then it wouldn't allow you to go into drive. And it was just flashing an air light, so we thought it was bricked, and then we remembered your car wash, and we thought you fried something. So we wheeled it outside, put it in the sun for a couple hours, and now it's running again.
Yes, a car that when it gets wet, Tommy, doesn't run.
Right. It's broken down twice now in the course of 2 days, which is not ideal for a brand new car. I'm not saying it's a quality automobile here, Dad, but I'm saying for as cheap as it is, it could have been a fun little runabout if it had been certified.
Yeah, so here's here's where we're going to get kind of interesting and transparent, all right? So that's the story up to this moment. Now that it's running again, we're going to do some more fun videos with it. We have an old Fiat 500 Cinquecento, which is this cute little Italian car. If you saw our Christmas card where we stuffed 4 big guys into it to go get a Christmas tree, you'll know what car I'm talking about. But we're going to take it and drag race it against this, probably stuff 4 big guys into both of them and see which one is actually quicker in a quarter mile. Which one do you put your money on? How many horsepower does this Cinquecento have?
17.
This thing has like 20, right?
45.
Ooh.
No, 60. It's got 60 horsepower.
Really?
40,
Wow.
45 kilowatts. Yeah, but it's limited to 35. No, the Candy should kill the Fiat pretty handily.
Does it Fiat? But the Fiat goes over 35 if you get
Not
it.
with 4 people in it. Not going to do much over 35.
I think those Cinquecentos were quicker than that. Anyway, that's what we plan to do with it next. But here's the thing. Now, we put up the video showing the very first purchase of it and what happened to us. And a lot of the comments are like, well, this is kind of what we expect from Chinese cars. Except I think that the problem is we're a little bit behind in terms of where China is in their car manufacturing process. So this technology that we see in this Candy is probably a 15-year-old car, right?
Yep.
And if you look at it today, China owns Volvo.
Geely owns Volvo.
Chinese car company owns. Well, I mean, Geely's probably state-owned. So I think to say China owns. So Geely isn't state-owned, but I would bet that there's a lot of. I mean, it is a communist country, right?
Right.
There's probably a lot of government influence in what these car companies do, if not directly, then certainly indirectly, and certainly with loans and such. But Geely does own Volvo, and Volvo builds not only electric cars, they also build Polestar, which are world-class electric vehicles. So, the news stories in China now are that there are like fields of these things that people just abandoned because China leapfrogged so quickly from making these crappy little, like the Yugo of the electric car world to making world-class electric cars that people just figured it was easier just to abandon them in a field than actually, because they're worthless.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
You can't sell them. 60 miles of range is pretty useless. 35 miles of top speed is actually also useless. So the funny part was the comments were like, well, that's a typical Chinese car. And I'm like, I'm not sure. I think that's a typical Chinese car from maybe 15 years ago. But today, even Lotus, the Electra, which is the latest electric Lotus, because once again, who owns a Lotus?
I think it's Geely as well, isn't it?
Is it Geely or is it BYD or is it Great Wall? I don't know. And it's a Chinese company owns Lotus as well. Who owns Lotus?
Geely.
Geely also owns Lotus. There you go. And some of the electric Chinese cars, which you actually saw at the Goodwood Revival this year, are pretty incredible.
Yeah, so
I'm not trying to defend China or not defend them. I'm just trying to be factual.
At the Goodwood Festival of Speed, so in the UK, they sell Chinese cars currently. So MG, right, the famed British manufacturer, is also owned. MG. Yeah, what did I say?
I thought you said M&G.
No, MG.
MG.
Famous roadster manufacturer, is owned by the Chinese, and right now they build a line of EV vehicles. And I expected them to be like this toaster thing we have parked outside, but they were phenomenal. They felt really well made. They had good specs, good range, really affordable for what they were, like starting at 32,000 pounds. Really impressed. And then I went across to another booth, and I got to sit in a Neo, which is another Chinese manufacturer, and I would say interior design and initial fit and finish, from what I could see, was well on par with Lexus or Mercedes or BMW. I mean, it was incredible, the quality in that car. Felt really, really good. And then you look at the charging specs, and they've got battery swap stations for these Neos. So you can pull in, they stick a new battery in it, and off you go down your road. Much faster way to recharge your car. So I was really impressed with some of that stuff. So I would say that, in a short amount of time, we've gone from building what is an electric refrigerator to easily, from a fit and finish and design standpoint, world-class EVs.
Yeah, and the most famous electric car company that is also the most famous, and people forget this, American electric car company, Tesla, they also build cars in China. And in fact, the new Model 3, the latest updated version, was first unveiled in China, followed by Europe, and it hasn't even been unveiled here yet. So that kind of shows you which way the winds are blowing. I mean, they've got a lot more consumers in China than we have here in America or even in Europe. But let's kind of get off the China thing right now and talk about some other cars, Tommy.
Yeah, so I just had a chance to drive the first level 3 autonomous car approved for U.S. use. So you measure autonomy based on a 1 through 5 scale. Number 1 is basically adaptive cruise control, where the car will do the braking. Number 5 is car so autonomous, drive under any condition, doesn't need a steering wheel, right? And up until this point, we've seen level 1 and level 2.
Which is level 2 would be like Super Cruise. It would be full self-driving.
Wait.
That's level 2.
Pause. Tesla full self-driving. If you just say full self-driving, people are going to assume
FSA. I mean, yeah.
FSD.
Sorry.
So hang
FSD.
on. Let me clarify this a little bit. So it's
wait. Why are you clarifying me? What I'm saying is right.
You're like making. I apologize.
It's kind of rude. You're like, let me educate you, Dad.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay.
I feel bad.
Tesla full self-driving, Super Cruise, which is part of GM.
You're right.
Blue Cruise, which is.
I just want to make it clear. Tesla full self-driving, if you don't know, is nowhere near full self-driving. That's why I wanted to clear up the confusion.
Okay.
I didn't mean to take your thunder. I apologize, everybody.
So all those systems are level 2. And level 2 basically means that the driver has to be ready to take control at any given moment. You have to keep your eyes on the road. You can't be watching YouTube videos. It works under certain conditions at certain times. Level 5 would be, like Tommy was saying, in the snowstorm with no driver behind the wheel, works all the time, anytime, no matter what.
Well, what I want to impart here is level 2, the driver is still responsible for what happens to the vehicle.
Yeah, this is a Mercedes thing.
No, this is a very important distinction, and I've heard this from other manufacturers as well.
I don't buy it, but go ahead.
Under a level 2 driving situation, even a Super Cruise where it's hands off and feet off the pedals, the car is still under the control of the driver. So if the car were to crash, the driver is responsible.
Right.
Now, what Mercedes is pioneering is a level 3 system. And in a level 3 system, it's hands off, feet off, And now eyes off. So the driver can take attention away from the driving experience and focus it on a secondary activity. And that's a big deal. So for the first time under certain conditions, and there's a lot of conditions.
And you got to do this.
Yeah, the Mercedes will drive itself, and if the Mercedes were to crash, the driver is no longer responsible. Mercedes says if the system's operating correctly, they're going to take the responsibility.
All right, so let me just clarify and let me disagree. So from an engineering perspective, there are very clear parameters what level 1, level 2, level 3 means. It has nothing to do with responsibility. That is a legal thing that Mercedes is arguing, but from an engineering point of view, it just suggests what the car can do and how it can do it when it can do it, right? And it has nothing to do with who's responsible. And I would argue, Tommy, that let's say Mr. Musk is driving a level 5 autonomous Tesla or a Mercedes, and he gets in an accident. You're saying that Mercedes would say, well, or let's say zero Mercedes, the responsibility is on us, not on the driver. I'm saying that both Musk and Mercedes would get sued. In our court system, the responsibility would be both. It would be, first of all, who's got the deepest pockets, and secondly, they would sue both. Whoever got injured would sue both. All right, so level 3 autonomy, Tommy. You got to experience it. What's it like?
Well, it's very cool because it genuinely is a full eyes-off system. So you don't have to pay attention to the road at all.
Were you watching YouTube videos?
Yes, and that's completely fine, which is interesting. So what's interesting is that the car allows you to enter these modes in the infotainment screen that you typically couldn't access. So you can go online, you can watch a video, you can watch a movie, you can text someone, you can email someone through the center screen.
How fast could you go?
Well, I'll get there.
Okay.
What's funny is that you can do all of that in the center screen, legal. You can't do it on your phone, though, because California has no texting and driving rules. So
the technology is ahead of the law.
Ahead of the law. Now, Mercedes has been working heavily with states to get this approved. And this is another big difference between level 3 and level 2. The amount of work it's taken Mercedes to get this first approval has been enormous. And so far, it only works in 2 states, California and Nevada. It only works on interstates, pre-mapped interstates, where the speed is below 40 miles an hour. So if you're stuck in traffic on pre-mapped interstates outside of LA, for example, click it on, hands off, eyes off, do your thing. Doesn't work at night. It doesn't work in the rain. It has to be a clear day. It's got a lot of sensors that you wouldn't find on a typical car. So it has dual cameras. It's got radar. It's got LiDAR.
Built-in redundancy.
It's got a GPS system. Super active GPS system that takes up the whole width of the roof that actually looks for 3 sets of satellites, GPS, Galileo, and then I think it's Baidu, the Chinese satellites. So it has really precise positioning within the lane. It's got cameras in the back that's looking for emergency vehicles. It's got special sensors listening for sirens, so it can, turn itself off if it sees sirens. So there's a lot of ifs in the system. However, if you do live in LA and you've got a nasty commute every morning, it is astonishingly good. It's amazing how quick you go from not trusting this thing at all to trusting your life in it in an instance. And it's the first system I've ever driven where it didn't mess up once or hesitate once or freak out once. Like I've driven Super Cruise, Blue Cruise, Tesla full self-driving like you were talking about earlier. And I never trust the systems fully. They try to take the exits. They are doing funny things in the lane. This Mercedes system was flawless.
So there's a lot of stories out about it right now because obviously there was an embargo, and so they've thrown a lot of journalists, and so the journalists all published their stories at the same time. And you know what I noticed, Tommy? No one cares.
Well,
yeah, and I'll tell you why. I thought about that.
Okay.
Because I love driving. And I'm not, now what you're doing is you're turning the car into the, proverbial toaster, right? Where you just sit there and it does whatever it wants. And you can do a lot of other things, but I could do a lot of other things, sitting in my home, watching TV, playing on the phone, watching the computer, scratching the dog. And when I go out and I actually want to go somewhere, I love the sensation of being able to get behind the wheel of a car and pilot it myself and feel, the exuberance of moving down the road with me in control of this, very special vehicle, be it electric or be it internal combustion engine. And I think people inherently understand that and inherently do like driving and like the freedom of it. And I think are kind of disappointed that this autonomy is now taking that away from them.
Here's what I would pitch to you, though. You are an excellent driver. You love driving. What is the one thing you hate more than anything in this world?
I mean, who likes traffic?
Yeah, but you especially, Dad. If you want to hear a Roman rant, you should hear my dad in traffic. You hate traffic. You hate driving in
That's
traffic.
why I moved out of Chicago to Colorado.
But imagine if you lived in LA and you had an hour and a half commute in traffic. That's not a lot of fun driving. You know, I would rather not have to deal with traffic and have the chance to play a game.
We're going to go down this road again, which is the terrifying road, which is, you know what's coming, right? There'll be autonomous driving, and you'll be able to turn it on when you get to the traffic area, and you'll be able to turn it off when you want to not drive. And then what will happen is some politician somewhere will figure out that, gosh, when people are using computers to drive, nobody dies, but when people are driving, a lot of people die. So let's pass a law saying that if you're in this part of the city or if you're in this part of the country, the only way you can go there, like London's doing with electrification, is to be fully autonomous. And that's going to spread, and eventually we're going to be driving cars in little ranches in Montana where we can actually go out and drive our classic cars, whereas in the rest of the world, you'll be in little pods floating around with no traffic, and that'll suck.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a potential.
There's my rant. See, it wasn't that bad.
But I still think, it's a piece of technology. Look, there's a lot of people that hate driving. There's a lot of people that are really bad drivers. And there's a lot of people that I'd probably prefer Mercedes engineers to take control of the driving.
There's a lot of people that love driving in video games, but it's not the same, Tommy.
No, but I'm saying there's a lot of people that hate driving.
Yeah. But they love video game driving. Like they don't like the real world driving, but they love going into one of the simulators.
No,
I kind of feel like we're.
I'm talking like my mom does not play games.
I know, but I'm saying we're kind of heading down this road where we're isolating and insulating ourselves from real life, and everything is happening virtually, whether we're buried in our phones or we're buried in virtual reality glasses or we're buried in our computer, and we're doing all this stuff that we used to do outside, inside, and I think we're, as a culture and as a people, we're missing out on a lot of life by doing that, right? You can go drive, the Nürburgring on a computer, or you could drive it in real life, and I promise you, the one in real life is going to be terrifying, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a story to tell.
I don't think the Nürburgring is going to go autonomous anytime soon, Dan. But what I'm trying to say is, it's a double-sided sword. Because this system is going to save a lot of lives. I was driving down, actually the car was driving me down the I-10 freeway outside of Los Angeles. And I was looking at every person around me, and every car for a 5-mile period, every single one of those people was on their phone.
I almost killed somebody this week, and it wasn't my fault.
What did you do?
I was driving home, and I'm in a one-lane road, and there's a double yellow line next to me, and the road goes from 35 to 55, and people don't know that it goes to 55, so they still drive 35. And as I'm driving down this road, an oncoming car, there's a blue Escape right in front of me, went to illegally pass the car in front of it, and I almost did a head-on.
Yeah.
To avoid the head-on, what I did was I jerked the wheel to my right, and there was a bike lane next to me, which I only realized afterwards. And had there been a cyclist in that lane, I would have killed him.
Well, and
because I would have tried to avoid that head-on collision. And I don't know if this person was trying to pass or if they were buried in their phone. I don't know, but it just really was a wake-up call, because I've ridden that road hundreds of times on my bike, because that's a very popular road.
Sure, right.
And I was thinking to myself afterwards, if there had been a bike there, because that instant reaction, right? You see somebody all of a sudden head on, just out of traffic, right into you. The first thing you do is you turn the wheel to avoid them, and it would have been a horrible tragedy.
And the question is it's easy to say that I want my freedom to drive anywhere. Everyone should have the freedom to drive anywhere. But what is that life worth, that person on the bike? Because that Escape wouldn't have passed in oncoming traffic if it was a Mercedes EQS system. I'm driving my classic Mini and someone plows into me because they're texting in traffic. What is that hospital bill worth if that person had been behind the wheel of an autonomous EQS?
Yeah, these are questions that are probably best left answered to people with, a higher pay grade than us.
Sure.
So let's talk about the other two cars we drove, because we're running out of time. So in our parking lot today is the Ford Escape. I would say new Ford Escape, but it's been around a while. And the problem we've got this, it's this really cool car. Do you know the name of it? It's like this,
I don't know this color.
Brown, but it's like a metallic brown. It's really cool.
This one's brand new, actually.
Yeah?
It's just been updated. So we've got a fresh update on the Ford Escape that we're driving this week.
And the problem with the Escape is the Bronco Sport.
Yes, that is the issue with the Escape.
Yeah, they're built on the exact same platform, and as much as I like the Escape and I like the color, and actually we took it over to our mechanic to pick up one of the Toyotas that we bought that
broke.
That broke. The mechanics really loved it. Thought the car was cool, but if it would be me, I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna get the Bronco Sport. It's the same car, just a different shell on top. Why not get the Heritage Edition Bronco Sport as opposed to the Escape? The Escape kind of feels like old school, no name crossover.
Well, this was the ST line. It's a little sporty.
It was a little sporty. It had a cool steering wheel. It has a cool steering wheel, cool leather.
Very luxurious.
Yeah.
Yeah, pleated leather for
Yes.
Escape.
Wasn't a hybrid.
It's got the new sync system, which is awesome. Really, really good. My big issue is $43,000 for an Escape. It's a pretty big ask. A lot of Bronco, full-size Bronco.
It is the ST, Tommy.
ST line.
Yeah, I know.
It's not a full ST. I like the car. I think it's quite quick. It's got the little EcoBoost engine. Would I pay $43,000 for it? Absolutely not. I would, like you said, get the Bronco Sport. But if I lived in a city and I didn't ever care about the image or the off-road capability of a Bronco Sport, maybe get the better on-road dynamics of the Escape.
Having just driven the K27, I felt it was incredible.
Yes, compared to the Candy, a bus pass might be better, Dad. That's a good point.
And then the vehicle we took to lunch, which now you might be regretting, is a new Toyota Corolla Crosstrek. Cross. What is it? The Cross. Help me here.
You can just cut it there, Dad.
The Corolla Cross.
Yes.
I was there for the unveiling of it. It's basically a lifted Corolla that has all-wheel drive that competes with cars like that's why I'm getting confused, like the Subaru Crosstrek, right?
Yeah.
So it's a direct competitor to that. We had a long discussion in the car because it has a planetary gear set, which does the best effort I've ever known to approximate and basically imitate CTV, CS. I'm getting tired.
You're having a hard time here, Dad. Yeah, so it's got an eCVT.
CTV. CVT.
CVT.
It basically emulates the CVT, which is the worst transmission that man has ever devised.
Continuously variable. I think it's okay. It's not a belt and a cone, so it's not going to wear out. Great little car. This one's the hybrid, so it's got the hybrid all-wheel drive system as well. Great color and very comfortable, so you have a lot of room for the money. They just dropped it off today. I haven't looked at the sticker, but it's a fun little car. I mean, for what it is, it'll get you through the snow, easy to park. It's got pretty good technology, great safety. It's got, speaking of safety features, the Toyota Safety Sense system with adaptive cruise and lane centering and blind spot monitoring. It's a good little guy.
Yeah, so if you're debating whether buying a Crosstrek with a CVT or the Corolla Cross with an eCVT, I'd go with the Corolla Cross with the eCVT if you don't mind, the fact that it accelerates in that funny way where it just goes, and drones on. They all kind of do that. It's good for fuel economy. The car I love. I mean, it's the right size. It's the right color. Gosh, what color was that? It's kind of almost a neon greenish yellow.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the sticker. I don't know what the name is. They just dropped it off like an hour
Do you know
ago.
the price? We didn't have the price.
I haven't seen the sticker yet.
Yeah, we haven't looked at the sticker.
But I really liked it. I drove it at the launch. Pretty affordable, very good fuel economy for what it is, and I think it's the best in that kind of small crossover segment. It's a good little car.
It is a good little car, and it seems to be very affordable. And if you want, I can go out there and get the sticker.
That's okay. Well, we'll talk about it next week.
I can Google it very quickly. I don't want to leave these people hanging. I feel like I'm not doing my job now.
Well, they dropped it off an hour ago.
I know, but we could have been more. Remember, you wanted to do more prepared.
Yes.
Now I feel like we're letting them down.
This podcast has been a little bit of a mess, Dad.
Oh,
Between the jalapeno in the eyes and the arguing, people are not going to be. I feel ashamed. People are not going to be.
All right, hold on here. I've got Google here. So 2023 Corolla Cross
starts in like the mid-20s.
From 23,610.
Yeah, but this one's going to be closer to 30 because it's got a lot of bells and whistles.
Yes.
But great little car. Yeah, you got to look at the hybrid too. That's just a normal one.
Oh, we had the hybrid?
Yep.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, it's pretty roomy as well. And would you get better fuel economy with the Prius? Yes. Would you get more space with the RAV4? Yes. But it's a good little balance.
So coming up, if you're wondering what's happening here at TFL, you've got something fun you're driving next week. Tell me about it, Tommy.
I'm driving the new Lexus TX.
Yes, exactly.
That's right. So I'm going to Texas to check out that. Got lots of stuff coming on that. Also doing some stuff with the Toyota Heritage fleet, which is going to be a ton of fun. So we're going to have a lot of cool news on that.
Yep, but Andre is right now driving a bunch of Chevy trucks, but not just any Chevy trucks. He's driving 3 versions, mid-size, a full-size, and a heavy-duty truck that are all what, Tommy?
They're all the ZR2s, so he's out doing the off-road trims of all the Chevy trucks. So we got a lot of cool stuff.
I think they're trail bosses, actually. They're all trail bosses.
They're not ZR2s?
Yeah, so he's going to get to drive one of the first in the country to get to drive the heavy-duty Chevy Silverado Trail Boss, which is pretty cool.
Yep, so be sure to stay tuned for that over at TFL Truck. We got a lot of more Candy K27 coverage coming. Silverado EVs parked out front too. Andre's doing a lot more testing with that.
Yeah, I want to thank Chevy. I won't take the truck podcast, topics, but I want to thank Shad and Chad for letting us be one of the first in the country to get our hands on the wheel of the new Chevy Silverado EV. We've been doing a whole bunch of testing with it. If you've been watching alltfl.com, you'll see that we actually towed with it.
Yep.
And compared it to an F-150.
Yep. So we got all that coming. Lots of good stuff with that truck coming.
Tommy, we're going to Ike it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how it does. So
and compared into Lightning.
Yeah, so we'll have lots of cool coverage with the EV truck wars coming up here shortly. Obviously, a lot of electrification in this world, so we got a lot of EV stuff coming down the pipeline. But a lot of good stuff going on around here.
Yeah, and then the coolest one, which I kind of am jealous of, but not horribly jealous, Case is going to the Ren Tech Reunion, the big Porsche party over in Monterey.
Yeah, Rennsport.
Rennsport, sorry.
I think it's Rennsport.
Rennsport Reunion, sorry.
He's going to go check out all the cool Porsches. They got some news coming out of Rennsport, so he's going to go experience like 100,000 air cool Porsches in one spot.
Yeah, that's really cool. Keep your eyes on alltfl.com. If you don't like this podcast, let me know in the comments below, except for one thing, Tommy. This is not a rant, but somebody gave us 1 star. You know why they gave us 1 star?
Why?
They gave us 1 star because they didn't, not because of anything I said, which I'm sure you were thinking. The review basically dinged us for the fact that we talk about electric cars. They said that electric cars are being forced down the throats of many people, and that because of that, they're going to give this podcast a 1 star because we were bold enough to actually talk about them and, in their view, promote them. Which we're not trying to promote or not promote anything. We're just kind of reporting the news. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of decisiveness on EVs. We'd appreciate it if you didn't give us the 1-star reviews, but we understand if you do.
If you want to give us a 1 star because you hate my rants, I eagerly will take that. But if you're going to give us a 1 star because you don't like the fact that we're talking about Chevys and you're a Ford guy, or we're talking about EVs and you're not an EV guy, please, that's not fair.
All right, so that's pretty bold. Look, EVs are coming. We have to go out there and cover them. If you want to see more Candy coverage, you know where to find it. Alltfl.com.
Yes, we're the only people in the country doing in-depth reporting on the K27. All right, guys. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Ciao.